and welcome to another tutorial for USOR games. This is a part of a continuing series that we're covering involving the character sheet. The character sheet is quite involved. There's quite a many little components to it, so I thought it'd be easier to break it up and cover it in several smaller tutorials rather than one long one. And in the previous one, we covered basic information up here. So now in this one, we're going to devote it exclusively to attributes and how that stuff works. So this game, like a lot of traditional role-playing games, uses attributes. Our system has 11 attributes. We have 5 physical, 5 mental, and then luck. And I'm going to go over briefly what each of these are. And each of these 11 attributes affects other stats in the game, like a lot of other role-playing games do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time detailing what these attributes do because you can look that up in the basic rules on our website. And a lot of it, like I said, is pretty self-explanatory. Even if you've played any kind of role-playing game before, video game or pen and paper or otherwise, you'll have a pretty good understanding what all this stuff means. So let's go through them really briefly. Strength, that's your physical strength, your ability to carry things and do damage with your fists and whatnot. Endurance is your ability to withstand fatigue and go physically for long hours, and it also affects your ability to take damage. Coordination is your manual dexterity with your fingers. That's useful for people who need to like pick locks, or someone who needs to perform surgery, or anything involving nimble use of your fingers. That also is useful for striking with a weapon. Agility is your physical speed and your ability to dodge out of the way of attackers and falling objects and whatnot. Beauty is your how good looking you are physically. And then on to the mental attributes. So logic is your mathematical intelligence, like your science and your spell casting and that kind of stuff. Willpower is your mental strength, your ability to withstand mind control and stress and fatigue and cowardice and fear and that kind of stuff. Intuition is like your creative intelligence. That's kind of your ability to it's your emotional intelligence as well. It's your ability to read other people and to have your kind of your creative side. Perception is just awareness of your surroundings. So this is useful for warriors, just so you don't get snuck up on and that kind of stuff. You're very mentally aware of what's going on around you. And then charm is your personality, how well people like you, how well you can influence other people. And luck is a very useful attribute in the game, because if the game master is trying to figure out which character this saber-toothed tiger is going to leap on, he'll probably choose the character with the lowest luck and then force that character to make a luck roll. Anyway, that's all the attributes, and we're going to go over max rating and current rating, because these are two things you need to understand for the game, especially for Fragments of Karn, this setting. So the max rating for each attribute has to be from 10 to 50, and that's because this race here, Danar, their range is from 10 to 50. So if you have a strength of 10 and you're Danian, that's like you're the weakest person of that race, like on the planet. And if you have a 50, that means you're like the strongest person of that race on the planet. So and that's true for all of their attributes. All of their attributes are on a range from 10 to 50. Other races will have different minimums and maximums, but for Danians, it's 10 to 50. And when you start the game off, most likely you probably, as a starting character, you won't be able to have a maximum attribute on any of these 11 attributes, because the character point cost is so high. But as you play the game, as you gain more character points, you're going to be spending more and more character points on building up your attributes. And the game, I think, frankly, would be very, very boring and not very fun for players if they just got super high character points and they just spent getting the max of 50 on every single attribute. And they would just be like the most strongest person, the most beautiful person, the most intelligent person, the most charming person. They'd have 50 on everything, and they'd be a very boring character because they wouldn't have any strengths and weaknesses. So built into the system, what we did is when you are creating a character, you have to assign a maximum rating for each of these attributes. And you're given a total of 410 points. So that lets you have 50 if you want on certain attributes, but you can't put 50 on every attribute as the maximum rating. Because that's true in real life. I mean, certain people can get stronger than others. Like your genetic potential to be strong, you could work out just work out all the time and just go insane with working out. But just because of your genetic makeup, maybe you'll never get to be the strongest person on the planet. And that's true of all these attributes. I mean, maybe you're born with fairly low intelligence. You could work really hard to improve your intelligence, but you're never going to be an Einstein, for instance. So this is a way to kind of, on top of the racial maximum of 50, this is a way to have a personal maximum for a particular character so that you can spend character points to raise your attributes up, but not above your own personal maximum. Yeah, so like let's say that we want a combat focused character and our secondary is skill. Because his primary focus is combat, he's probably going to want to have a lot of his physical stats to be 50 as the max. So let's put most of these at 50. But you see, we've already spent 100 points and we only have 410 total, so we're going to run out of the ability to do 50 eventually. And we're going to have to start lowering certain attributes. So let's try like coordination of 40, agility, let's do 50, beauty, we'll do like 38, logic, let's do 40 on logic, 40 on willpower, 45 on intuition, 28 on perception, and let's say 41 on charm. So now you can see I've spent 422 points. That's over our 410 limit. The program's not going to let you save the character on that, so we have to reduce some attributes. So let's put strength at 40, and now we're still 2 over. So let's put charm at 39. So when you go and spend character points on attributes, they can never go above these max scores here. Now it's important to note that there's a couple things to note here also with a max rating, which is one, that these max rating settings don't cost character points because these aren't anything you have right now. This is just your potential for what your current rating can be. That's the first thing. The second thing is that once you punch these numbers in and you hit the create new character on the bottom, it will lock these numbers in. So you can go back in and edit your character sheet by improving attributes and skills and whatnot, but once you hit create character, you will never be able to change your max rating ever again, and you'll never be able to change your primary and secondary focus. So make sure you've chosen that your decision is final on how you've chosen your primary and secondary focus and your attribute max ratings, because that's going to affect your character for the rest of the game, and you won't be able to take it back. So that's just an important side note. Another thing on the current ratings is that no matter what your max rating is here, because your race is Danian, you have to have a minimum of 10 on each of these current ratings. And if you don't put that in, you're going to get a validation error. So you can see as I go through, I'm punching in different numbers for the attributes, and you can see the character point cost coming in here, and the corresponding dice rolls that are used with that rating. And we'll get into what all that stuff means later, but just wanted to show you in this video how the current rating and the max rating works for attributes. And of course you got to go through and fill out each one as you go through, and the program, like I said, will give you a validation error if you do not punch in a number for each of these attributes. And you don't forget luck. Even though there's no max rating for luck, you still need to put a number in for that. And that's basically it. So that's the attributes in a nutshell. And then what we're going to do in the next tutorials, we'll go over what social traits are. And I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Happy gaming!